Hey guys, welcome back to the shack. Tonight, I'm out here working on a project. I got an order in. Customer is providing me with some blanks. These are little small wine glasses that they want their business logo engraved onto. And since getting the new UV laser, I've decided that it is by far the easiest approach to doing glass. I get the best results, low risk to the glass, nice frost, smooth finish. It's not going to cut you, no shards or anything. And so that's the machine I'm going to be using tonight. So I just going to, while I've got the machine up and going, I just want to show you the process that I'm using, the tools and accessories that you need to do this, and kind of give you an idea of how a machine like this is really effective for batching out these things. Because I've got around 24 of these to do. It's taking me about 1.5 minutes, and we're running through them fast. So if that's something you're interested in, stick around. And we'll be right back, and we're going to get this one off, put another one on, and get this video done. So as far as the machine's concerned, guys, in case you're not familiar with the machine, this is the ComMarker 5-watt UV, known as the Omni 1. That is the reason that the machine does such an excellent job with the glass. It's not a fiber, it's not a blue diode, even though the light that you're seeing is probably blue coming off of it, because it is the UV, which is ultraviolet. So it gives off that blue hue. The cameras do a pretty good job of picking it up. Visually, the human eye, I can't see it as much, especially when it's engraving. You don't want to be looking at that, but the cameras pick up that real brilliant blue. So it does a really good job with the glass, and I have been impressed with it for stuff like that, for glasses, plastics, and so forth. Anything that you want, you don't want to go ultra deep with it. You just want it really smooth, and you want it really precise and high resolution. It does a really good job with that. Stuff like these with the Rotary incorporated on it, it does make them really easy. It's just rinse and repeat. It's not as time consuming, because with this machine, the graphics are going to be kind of small on these little glasses. So it's just a lot of getting it set up properly. Once you get it set up properly, you've got the chuck, everything's tightened up. The chuck is made to the base of the machine. The base of the machine is made to the rest of the machine. All of the angles and stuff on the chuck are set. Everything's tightened down. The only possible place where I could mess up in batching these out is the placement of the glass into the chuck. I will tell you, this chuck is no toy. If you tighten too tight with this little T-handle, you will rupture the glass, you will break things. It is strong. It's not plastic, it is steel. That's the only real thing that I would caution you about, is you gotta be gentle, especially if you're used to torquing on things. With this chuck, you just gotta torque it until it gets snug and leave it be. But as long as you've got it seated in there well and you torque it till it grabs, it's good to go. It's not coming loose. This thing is built like a tank. So I've been real happy with the Rotary. I've used it, like I said, this is the 3rd machine that I've used it with, and I've had good luck with it. It's simple, but it works. To give you an idea here, I've already done 2 boxes of these things. I've got the other 2 boxes unboxed and got them up here on the lineup ready to go. You can see the process that I'm using. I'm using the chuck. This is the chuck that I got from ComMarker. It was originally used with my ComMarker before, the 20 watt that I had, but I found out that this machine will use the same chuck, but it doesn't require the little controller box. You just plug the chuck directly into the base of the machine and it works. I do like to keep up with my steps per rotation by engraving them onto here, but it's a simple process. And hang on, I'll walk you around to the back of the machine and just show you this. Unlike some Rotaries that require you to have a controller, this one plugs directly into the back of the Omni 1, right there on that little port on the top, right next to the foot pedal. Also, you'll notice for this setup, because I am batching these things out, doing them kind of quick, I also have the pedal on the machine, which I keep that down there to activate this machine. So when I take this one off, put another one on, hit the pedal, it's gonna repeat. So let me set the camera down, and we're gonna swap this one out, and I'll show you the process here. So once the glass has completed, all I've got to do, guys, is literally take and release the chuck using the little key here. Take this one off, take the other one and insert it back on here. Now these are kind of some cheaper little glasses, so there's some inconsistencies in some of the thicknesses. So I may have to release a little further or tighten a little more, you know, as I change it. But once I get that changed, glasses on, hit the pedal, and we're off doing the next one. So it's just repeat and rinse over and over, not really hard at all. So we're gonna run through the settings and everything. I'm gonna finish these up, run through the settings and everything, and then we'll go over why I think in certain situations, this setup is awesome for this kind of thing. All right, so that we don't bore you to death, I'm gonna try to put some a little bit of the B-roll up there so you can kind of watch these things work if you want while we talk about this. So first of all, the rotary setup, the chuck setup on this, if you do get one of these machines and you do get your hand on this chuck, I will put the model and everything information from ComMarker down below in the description if you're interested. But the way you're going to set this thing up is if you've got it oriented the way that I do in my workspace, and you can see that from the video and you'll see it some more, make sure you select the chuck, enable rotary. I use return to starting point just because that's the way I like for it to operate. That one way or the other, who cares? You know, personal preference, it'll work regardless, but I prefer for it to return to the start point. That way, each time I put one on there, I know exactly what side is going to be up. If you've got a sticker or something that you're trying to align with, that just makes it easier for me. I do have it splitting the design in 15 millimeter blocks. Reason is if an object, the more curved an object is, the more you split it. If it's too curved, you're going to end up coming out of focus, and you're going to have basically like wavy looks in your engrave. So the more of a round, like the smaller the circle, the tighter the roundness of the object, the smaller the block size needs to be. The bigger, the bulkier it is, you can get away with it because you're not going to have that decline as it goes around the edge. Like I said, I've got a 0.1 overlap, 0.1 millimeter overlap set up. The 12,800 steps per rotation. That's from ComMarker when I bought it. That was the steps that was set up. I've tested it with the other machines, and that seems to be consistent with it. I did measure these little things best I could, the area that I was engraving, and that's 60 millimeters, and putting that in here. All right, so the one big hang up that I will warn you about, guys, is this is a tripping hazard if you're not used to using chucks with the galvos. When you set the rotary up, if you don't have it perfectly centered in the work area, you're going to need to use this offset. If you read this, it's going to be the output center. This is basically where you want the center of the engrave to begin. It defaults to the center of the work area, but you can move it. So there may be some adjustment needed to be done on there. But you can get it to show you and frame it so that you can adjust. So always use a dummy to test everything out, make sure that it's set up correctly. But yeah, that was a little stumbling for me that I had to work through. And the only other big thing that I'll go over, and like I said, I'm not trying to do a full-blown tutorial on this. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. We can go back and do that later. But the other thing is just the settings for this machine. And if you have a 5-watt UV, your settings will probably be similar. Probably not same, but could be similar. So I'm running 300 speed, 30 frequency. The Q pulse I've got set to 4. I am doing crosshatch. The lines per inch is set to 1,000. I've got it doing 2 passes with a 45-degree rotation, and I've got the auto rotate set on to be on, and that is just to kind of go over. Basically, it's kind of like when you're spray painting. I'm just doing multiple coats to make sure that I don't miss any little spots and that I get a good even coating. And that's been working really well for me. It worked on all of these. I didn't have any issues with them. Just make sure that you've got your focus set properly, and with the UV, it does a really awesome job of the glass. So let's get back to some action, guys. All right, guys. So with what little bit of time that we've spent on this video, I've almost got all of these glasses done. And the cool thing about this job is this is for another business here in my community. So I'm not charging the guy a lot for these. It's just one of those business to business things that I like to do. I do it mostly to kind of get myself a little free advertisement because this is going to help a charity event. And so there's going to be that. And like I said, this is a business that I do other stuff with as well. And you can see how easy this is. It's just, I could literally be doing other things. It's got 1.5 minutes is what Lightburn is saying it is between doing the cups or doing the glasses. So once I get one done, it's engraved. Really, they've got to clean these things up before the event. So all I've got to do is put it back in this little bubble wrap envelope looking thing here, I guess you would say, and set it back in the box. So with 5 left at 1.5 minutes, you're looking at the entire job. I'm going to say set up and all, testing and everything. I probably spent about 1.5 hours because I did test and I had to set up the rotary to get it exactly the way I wanted it. With this rotary, it does have the holes in the base of it so that you can attach it to the machine using the screws. I've got some extra length screws that go through the rotary and into the base of the machine to hold it in place. This rotary also allows you to offset the angle. And so I use my little small level here just to make sure that the surface that I'm engraving is the same level. Because one of the biggest things that you don't want to do is you don't want to have the machine out of level, as far as, not necessarily, if the machine is out of level, that's fine, but it needs to be the same as whatever you're engraving. So you want them parallel. It's more about parallel than it is level. I hear folks use the term level as far as lasers goes quite often. As far as the machine has to be level. As long as the machine is parallel with the material, it's not that big of a deal. You just don't want those focuses messed up. And I am sitting here talking and put the sticker up on this one. So that's the biggest thing, is make sure everything is where you want it. You get it locked down. Like I said, with this chuck, it's really easy to take them off, put them back on there, and then just hit the pedal. That's all you got to do. So the rotary that I'm using, like I said, is currently not advertised for the Omni 1. I had reached out to ComMarker when I had the B4 because I wanted something bigger, something I could do tumblers with, and that's when I got this one. I picked it up to do tumblers on the B4 with, but you had to have an adapter to use it with the B4. But with the Omni 1, I have found that no need for the adapter. You simply go in and set it up in Lightburn just like you would with any other machine, and there you go. Another thing that I'm trying to get into, and I've got my feelers out to get a few more test pieces, is talking with some of the folks that I've met through some of the events recently. I found out there's a market for custom bottles for some of the higher end drinks and stuff like that. So what I'm getting into now is I'm getting me some testing stock up together to be able to come up with settings for these type of bottles. And I'm trying to build out my material library so that I'll know exactly the settings that I prefer for bottles such as these, so that for special occasions, gifts, that type of thing, I can engrave these bottles. So let's get this last one here done, and then we're gonna wrap this up, guys. All right, guys, so I got all 24 of those done. Each one was, like I said, around 1.5 minutes or so. Not a bad little job. Like I said, this is a fellow business owner here in the county where I live. So I'm not killing it as far as the profit goes. But, you know, had we not had that relationship, you know, this setup, he donated me 2 of them for testing to get the settings figured out. Getting it done, total run time, maybe an hour or so. So even if you were doing these, even if you charged $10 a piece to do the engraving, $5 a piece to do the engraving, for 20 something of them, it's not terrible. So I think with this setup, with the chuck, any of these machines, of course, can do glass with the proper setup. But the thing that I like the best about the UV is that I don't have to chalk paint it. I don't have to spray it with CerMark. I don't have to do a cleanup afterwards. No having to hit it with sandpaper or a magic eraser after it's over with. No worrying about whether it's going to break the glass or not. So there are advantages. Now, the UV machines, guys, they are not cheap in any shape, form, or fashion. I've heard some other people talking about the ComMarker machine and how they don't like it and all that. All I can speak to as far as ComMarker goes is the fact that this is my 3rd ComMarker machine. And so far, outside of a few user adjustments that needed to be made, I haven't had a problem with the machines. So I've heard, like I said, I've heard it myself on some other live streams and stuff talking about the ComMarker. I can't speak to that. I can't speak to any of the other manufacturers either, because with the UV especially, ComMarker is the only one I've ever had. I have had other machines as far as galvos, but with the UV, this is the only one I've had. So take it for what it's worth. I just knocked out 24 of these little cups with no problems after doing proper testing and stuff with the machine. And if I were charging appropriately for this job, I could have made a pretty good little penny. But luckily for the guy that I'm doing the job for, it's all in the spirit of cooperation, and it's for a fundraiser. So there you go. But anyway, guys, if you're interested in any of the products, whether it be the machine, the rotary, or whatever, I will drop those down below in the description. Feel free to check those out. If you do want to purchase one of the machines, use the links. It'll help me out. So until next time, be safe and have a good day.